No hunting black bears. No ice skating. Don't have to tell me.
Vlog number 5. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. My name's Tim Hurd, BTWN guy, trying to encourage you to be mature. Usually speak to men for the most part. Some women watch, but not many. The concept today is decide before you have to decide. Sounds weird, right? It is weird. Matter of fact, I've been struggling with this concept all day, trying to put into words the concept that I'm thinking, something that I've implemented in my life that I want to encourage you with. Let me tell you a story or two. I love donuts. Actually, truth be known, I don't love donuts anymore. I used to love donuts. I used to eat them all the time. But there came a time when I realized I'm too fat. I need to eat right. I need to stop eating donuts. Problem was, my family still loved donuts. And every Sunday morning I would go and buy 1 or 2 dozen donuts, bring them back to the house. My wife and I and my 4 little children would eat either a dozen or 2 dozen donuts throughout the day. I think it was usually a dozen donuts, usually a dozen donuts. And I'd have 2 or 4 donuts myself. Love donuts. But no more donuts for me. And it had to be a mental decision that I made, not when the donuts were in front of me, but before they were in front of me. So I had to decide before it was time for me to decide, I'm not going to eat donuts. And once I decided outside of the realm of the temptation to eat the donuts, then I was the guy who doesn't eat donuts. Not only was I the guy who doesn't eat donuts, I was the guy who on a Sunday morning went to Dunkin' Donuts and bought the donuts and smelled the donuts and picked the donuts out that I don't eat. So I had to decide before I was in that situation where I was tempted. And that this principle, you might say, all I'm saying is just do it, or just decide to do it, or just set your mind to the fact that you're either going to do or do something that you struggle with, do something that you're going to do something that you should do, or not do something you shouldn't do. It's a simple concept, but there's so many times in my life I have to bring this concept up because I get in situations where there's either peer pressure or there's factors on me where I'm tempted not to do something that I should do, or I'm tempted to do something I shouldn't do. But and usually I regret it, right? So we all have regrets. If there are situations or things that you haven't done in the past that later you regret them, or things that you did in the past and later you regret them. Now, evaluate, look back on those regrets. We all have regrets. Look back on times when you fell short. You didn't do what you should have done. And now, decide what is the morally correct thing for you to do, and then determine you're the guy who in that situation is going to make the right choice. Let me share with you another story. It's very specific to me, but I think the concept, you'll be able to relate to the concept. God's enabled me the ability to explain the gospel of Jesus Christ and the ability to stand in front of people and talk. Doesn't mean I enjoy it. Well, I enjoy doing it, but it's nerve-wracking. And I have some friends who are street preachers, and every time I would get together with my street preaching friends in evangelistic outreach, they would say, "Hey Tim, you wanna turn on the box? You wanna stand up on the box and preach?" No, you go ahead. You have somebody else do it, or maybe tomorrow, or I would pass it off. Keep the camera here. I'd pass it off on somebody else. But then there were other opportunities, like when I went to the Super Bowl outreach, where it was determined I was going to do it. But then, even then, it was difficult. But let me try not to get sidetracked in my explanation of this. I would regret after going out evangelizing on the street corner and not getting on the box. I would always regret it. I would regret not getting on the box, because I knew that for me, it was something that I needed to do. I can do it. It's scary. It's nerve-wracking. It's difficult, but I knew for me before the Lord, it's something that I should do because I can. But I didn't decide to do it when I was being asked to do it, even though the peer pressure was to do that thing, right? I didn't give in to the positive peer pressure. I said no. Then finally, one day when I was regretting not doing it, I decided, you know what? From now on, anytime I'm out with guys in that setting, if they ask me if I want to be on the box, the answer is yes. I decided to make the right decision. I decided to do what was right for me before I was in this position where I had to decide. So I became the guy. Camera is shaking. I became the guy. Sorry about that. I became the guy who is always going to stand up on the box whenever he's asked. I made that decision. And again, it is as simple as setting your mind to it and deciding that that's the way you're going to do it. I think all of us constantly have to be thinking back on their lives, thinking back on the day, or thinking back on the interactions we've had with people. What are some things that you regret doing or not doing? And then determine, all right, the next time I'm in that situation, I'm going to do the right thing. So that in that situation, you don't have to think, oh, what should I do? You've already thought it through and you know what to do. I fail all the time. I fail all the time. But I think I'm getting better in some things as I implement this concept. Think about it. Think about what you want to do. Maybe it's saying no. Maybe it's saying yes. Maybe it's as simple as, you know what? Every time I see my kids, when I leave, I'm the guy or I'm the gal who, when I leave my family, I tell everyone I love them. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's that simple. Maybe you're an introvert like me and you struggle in social situations and you have to decide apart. Like, there was so many times I was like, man, I regret not saying hello to that person, not greeting that person, not shaking that person's hand, not engaging with them socially because I was nervous or selfish or too much of an introvert. Whatever the case. I decided one day, you know what? During greeting time at church, I'm going to shake as many people's hands as I can. I'm not just going to shake the people's hands around me. I'm going to go search people out. And then not only in church situations, that you can apply this to anything in your life. And yeah, it's simple. It's so simple, it's stupid. Decide to do the right thing before you're tempted, before you're put in the situation where you have to decide. Whether it's saying, yeah, it could be negative peer pressure to do bad things. It can be being tempted to look at pornography. Decide, not in the situation when you're tempted, decide before that, you're a guy who's not going to view pornography. It's not an option. It's not an option for me to say, no, I'm going to get on the box. It's not an option for me to look at pornography. It's not an option. And then it's not an option to eat donuts. So it's less of a temptation the longer you make the commitment. This is the way you're going to be. I'm a guy who doesn't eat donuts. I'm a guy who doesn't view pornography. I'm a guy who, fill in the blank. What was my other example? Stands on the box if asked to. Simple, so simple, but yet so hard to do. And I'm telling you, just do it. Just do it. Especially if it's something, well, a lot of it, these are things that are moral things that we know we should do that we don't do. Man, you can apply it to so many things. I don't want these vlogs to get too long, but I'm looking at the time, 11 minutes now. Maybe it's your relationship with your spouse, Decide to be the guy who doesn't yell. Decide to be the guy who delays his emotions and thinks before he talks. Decide to be the guy who doesn't yell at your kids. And you just don't do it anymore. Decide to be the guy who doesn't swear. Decide to be the guy who shows up to church on time, all the time. Or gets there early and asks, "Hey, Pastor, is there anything I can do to help?" I'm speaking to myself now. Decide to be the guy who never walks by a garbage can that's full without emptying it. Basic stuff. There's a lot of basic things that you and I should do on a regular, everyday basis just because we're common, decent human things that we should do, but we don't do them. Commit not to walk by a piece of garbage on the sidewalk. It's that simple. Don't make a lot of these commitments at once, one at a time. And I'd love to hear some stories. You can email me. You can respond to the video. Subscribe. Keep watching. I appreciate some of you giving me some good feedback. God bless. Decide to decide now. See, I'm having a hard time. I even record. You might find this funny. I even recorded for like 15 minutes in a beautiful park with the lake behind me and everything. I just didn't like the way it came out. I like this a little bit better. I think I did a little bit better explaining what I'm trying to say. So just do it. Decide to do the right thing and then live without regrets in those situations. Till next time, I will see ya. I hope that, as vague as that was, I hope it helped you. Because I've been thinking about this all day long. And I worry that I didn't communicate it well to you. That's a nice little lake there. Nice little lake. Pretty cool. It's a beautiful day. You see that building behind me? Somebody knows what that is. Port Jarvis, New York, I think.